Welcome to the lands of science fiction stories. I wish you a pleasant listening experience.
The atmosphere aboard the Celestial Dawn buzzed with the energy of its crew preparing for arrival. Commander Soren Threx, a tall and imposing figure, stood at the helm of his starship, gazing out into the vast expanse of the galaxy. His black eyes gleamed with intensity, reflecting the distant stars that dotted the sky like scattered gems. As a human officer in the Coalition's fleet, Soren had a reputation for handling dangerous missions, but this one felt different. Ziones Alpha was notorious. The planet had been abandoned for centuries, its atmosphere harsh, the weather unpredictable. But now it had drawn attention from powerful factions, with rumors swirling of ancient alien technology buried deep beneath its surface. Soren's mission was simple: recover any surviving relics before they fell into the wrong hands. Yet the moment his boots touched down on the surface, he knew something far more dangerous awaited him. The terrain was unforgiving. Razor-like winds whipped across the barren landscape, making every step a battle. Soren's combat suit provided minimal comfort against the biting cold, his dark brown hair tousled by the force of nature. His team, consisting of 2 other humans and a Zithrian female named Ilara, moved in formation behind him, their steps synchronized and silent. "Commander," Ilara's voice crackled through his comms, her sharp green eyes scanning the area ahead. "I'm picking up unusual energy signatures just beyond the ridge. We should proceed with caution." Soren gave a brief nod, his jaw set in determination. "We'll scout it out. Stay close and keep your weapons hot." As they reached the ridge, the team peered down at what seemed like an ancient structure, half buried in the sand. Massive stone pillars jutted out from the ground, their surface etched with indecipherable alien glyphs. It was a remnant of a lost civilization, one that had vanished long before any of the Coalition races took to the stars. "This is it," Soren muttered under his breath, his gaze locked on the structure. "Let's move in." Descending the ridge, they approached the entrance cautiously, weapons raised. The air was thick with tension, the silence unnerving. Soren could feel the weight of the unknown pressing down on him, his instincts screaming that something was off. Suddenly, a soft hum filled the air. The pillars began to glow with an eerie, pulsating light, the glyphs shifting and rearranging themselves before his very eyes. Ilara gasped in awe, her slender form momentarily frozen by the sight. "That's impossible," she whispered. "No one's been here in centuries. How could the technology still be active?" Soren's grip tightened on his plasma rifle. "Stay alert. We don't know what triggered this." The ground trembled beneath their feet, and without warning, the entrance to the structure opened, revealing a dark corridor lined with more glowing glyphs. A deep, guttural voice echoed from within, unintelligible but commanding, as if summoning them. "We need to go in," Soren said, his voice steady despite the growing unease in his chest. "This is what we came for." Ilara hesitated for a moment, her eyes meeting Soren's. There was something unspoken between them, a connection that had grown over the years of working together, though neither had ever acted on it. Not yet. As they stepped into the corridor, the temperature dropped further, and the air grew heavy with a strange, intoxicating scent. It wrapped around them like a velvet shroud, seeping into their minds, clouding their thoughts. Soren could feel his body reacting, his pulse quickening as his senses heightened. There was a raw, primal energy in the air, something ancient and forbidden. "Commander, I'm feeling strange." Ilara's voice was laced with uncertainty, and Soren noticed her gaze lingering on him longer than usual. Her slender form seemed to move with an unnatural grace, her green eyes flickering with an intensity that made his heart pound. Soren clenched his fists, trying to shake off the sensation creeping up his spine. "Focus, Ilara. We need to stay sharp." But the further they ventured into the structure, the harder it became to resist. The energy coursing through the air was more than just an ambient force. It was alive, probing their thoughts, their desires. Soren's mind raced, torn between the mission at hand and the magnetic pull he felt toward Ilara. He had never noticed just how captivating her presence was until now, her lithe movements drawing his gaze like a moth to flame. Suddenly, a figure emerged from the shadows ahead. It was humanoid, but its features were obscured by a hooded cloak, the fabric shimmering with an otherworldly glow. The figure raised a hand, and the glyphs along the walls flared to life, bathing the corridor in an unsettling red light. "Welcome," the figure intoned, its voice deep and resonant, reverberating through their bones. "You have come to seek what lies within, but the price of knowledge is steep." Soren stepped forward, his plasma rifle aimed squarely at the figure. "Who are you? What is this place?" The figure chuckled softly, its hood tilting to reveal a hint of pale skin and glowing, silver eyes. "I am the Keeper of Secrets, the guardian of this ancient temple. And you, Commander Threx, have much to learn." Before Soren could react, the walls around them began to shift, closing in with a grinding of stone. The floor trembled, and the air thickened with tension. But amidst the chaos, Soren felt an undeniable pull toward Elara, her presence both grounding and intoxicating. Soren's breath
keeper's
caught
voice
as the
echoed
walls
through the
around
chamber
them
once
closed
more.
in with an
"Do you
ominous
seek
groan.
power?"
The glyphs on the stone flickered like dying embers, casting unsettling shadows that danced across Elara's face. Her sharp green eyes remained locked on the hooded figure, her fingers tense around her rifle. Soren's heart pounded, the magnetic pull toward her growing stronger with every passing moment, but he pushed the feeling aside. "We don't have time for games," Soren growled, stepping forward. "We're here to retrieve the relics. Nothing more." The keeper's silver eyes gleamed from beneath the hood, a soft chuckle escaping their lips. "Relics? Ah, yes, the remnants of a civilization lost to time. But the knowledge you seek comes with a cost." Without warning, the ground beneath them trembled violently. Elara stumbled, instinctively reaching out to Soren, her hand brushing against his arm. The touch was electric, sending a jolt of heat through him that made it difficult to focus. He swallowed hard, forcing his mind back to the task at hand. "What do you want from us?" Elara demanded, her voice unsteady but defiant. The keeper's figure glided closer, moving with an ethereal grace. "You stand at the crossroads, Commander. To gain the power within these walls, you must confront the truth of your desires. There are forces beyond your understanding that lie dormant here, but to unlock them, you must be willing to sacrifice." Soren narrowed his eyes, his grip on his rifle tightening. "What kind of sacrifice?" The keeper raised a hand, and the air grew thick, heavy with tension. "Not all sacrifices are physical, Commander. The mind, the heart, they too must be offered." Before Soren could react, the glyphs flared brighter, and the chamber shifted once more. The corridor seemed to elongate, the walls stretching into infinity, trapping them within a maze of stone and shadow. Soren glanced at Elara, who stood beside him, her expression a mix of fear and curiosity. "We need to keep moving," Soren said, his voice steady despite the chaos. "Stay close." They ventured deeper into the temple, the atmosphere growing more oppressive with each step. The air was thick with that intoxicating scent again, clouding Soren's thoughts, making it harder to resist the pull toward Elara. Every subtle movement she made, every glance, every shift of her body, seemed to magnify his awareness of her. It was as if the temple itself was amplifying his desires, pushing him towards something he wasn't ready to confront. Elara's voice broke the silence. "This place, it's doing something to us. I can feel it." Soren nodded, his jaw clenched. "It's more than just the atmosphere. It's as if the temple is alive, probing our minds, our emotions." Elara's gaze lingered on him, her expression softening for a moment. "Whatever this place is, we need to stay focused. We can't afford to get distracted." But despite her words, there was an undeniable tension between them, a tension that had been growing for months but had never been acknowledged. Here, in the heart of this ancient temple, that tension seemed to take on a life of its own. As they pressed on, the corridor opened up into a vast chamber, the walls adorned with more glowing glyphs. At the center of the room stood a massive stone altar, its surface cracked and weathered with age. Soren approached cautiously, his every instinct on high alert. "This is it," he murmured, running his fingers over the ancient carvings. "The relics must be here." Elara moved beside him, her breath shallow as she studied the altar. "What do we do now?" Before Soren could answer, the air around them shimmered, and the figure of the keeper appeared once more, standing at the edge of the chamber. "The relics are yours for the taking, Commander. But first, you must confront your deepest truth." The glyphs on the walls blazed with light, casting the room in a warm, golden glow. The energy in the air was palpable, a heady mix of power and desire that made it difficult to think clearly. Soren's pulse quickened, his eyes drawn to Elara despite his best efforts to remain focused. "You can feel it, can't you?" The keeper's voice was like silk, smooth and hypnotic. "The pull between you and her. The desires you've both kept buried, hidden beneath duty and honor." Soren's fists clenched at his sides, his mind warring with itself. He had always prided himself on his discipline, on his ability to separate personal feelings from the mission. But here, in this temple, everything felt different. Every glance Elara cast his way sent his heart racing, and the space between them felt charged with an energy that was impossible to ignore. Elara took a step closer, her voice barely a whisper. "Soren, what's happening to us?" He turned to her, his breath catching in his throat. Her green eyes were wide, filled with confusion and something else, something more dangerous. The same pull that was affecting him was clearly getting to her too, and for the first time, Soren realized how deeply intertwined their fates had become. "The temple," he muttered, shaking his head as if to clear it. "It's amplifying everything we feel. We need to stay strong." But even as he spoke, Soren could feel his resolve slipping. Elara was standing so close now, her presence overwhelming. He could see the faint rise and fall of her chest, the way her breath hitched as their eyes met. It was as if the temple was urging them to give in, to cross the line they had both danced around for so long. The keeper's voice echoed through the chamber, low and insistent. "The power you seek will come at a price. Only by embracing your truest desires can you unlock the relic's full potential." Soren's mind raced, torn between the mission and the primal need coursing through his veins. He knew what he had to do, what they both had to do. But could he really give in to the force pulling him toward Elara? Could he allow himself to cross that line, knowing the consequences? "Elara," his voice was hoarse, thick with emotion. "I." She silenced him with a look, her lips parted in silent understanding. There was no need for words. The truth was already there, hanging between them like an unspoken promise. Without another thought, Soren reached for her, his hand brushing against her cheek. The touch was electric, and in that moment, all the barriers between them shattered. Soren's hand trembled as his fingers brushed Elara's cheek. Her skin was warm, soft, despite the cold air surrounding them. Time seemed to slow as their eyes locked, the weight of unspoken desires finally brought to the surface by the temple's strange power. The charged energy that filled the air, once oppressive, now seemed to heighten every sensation, urging them closer. For a brief moment, the outside world faded away. The mission, the relics, the keeper's cryptic words. It was just them, alone in the vast chamber, standing on the precipice of something they had both denied for too long. But Soren hesitated, his mind pulling him back from the edge. "Elara, this isn't right. We're being manipulated." Elara's gaze softened, her hand coming to rest on his chest. "I know, but maybe there's a truth in this. A truth we've been ignoring." Soren's heart pounded as the conflicting emotions waged war inside him. He had always prided himself on his discipline, his ability to remain focused even in the most dire of situations. But here, with Elara so close, her touch so real, he found himself teetering on the edge of control. Before he could respond, the keeper's voice echoed through the chamber once more, a low rumble that sent a chill down his spine. "You have come to the threshold, Commander Threx. The power you seek is within your grasp, but you must confront the truth of your heart." Soren's jaw clenched, his gaze shifting from Elara to the towering figure of the keeper. "What are you trying to make us do?" The keeper's silver eyes gleamed beneath the hood. "This temple is not just a place of power, it is a crucible for the soul. The relics you seek are more than just ancient technology. They are the key to unlocking the deepest potential within you, if you are willing to embrace what lies buried within." Soren's mind raced, the weight of the decision pressing down on him. He could feel the pull of the temple, the way it amplified every thought, every feeling. But beneath the surface, he sensed something more. A choice that went beyond desire. "What are you saying?" Elara asked, her voice trembling. "What kind of potential?" The keeper's hooded figure moved closer, the air around them shimmering with the raw energy of the temple. The relics hold the power to reshape reality itself. But such power comes at a cost. To wield it, you must give yourself fully to your deepest truth, the desires you've kept hidden. Soren's breath caught in his throat. This was more than just about physical power, it was about the very essence of who they were. And he knew, in that moment, that the temple was forcing them to confront something they had both avoided for too long. Elara stepped closer to him, her voice barely a whisper. "Soren, we can't do this. We've fought so hard to keep this professional, to stay focused. But maybe this is what we've needed all along." Soren's heart ached at the vulnerability in her words. He had spent years denying what he felt for her, pushing it aside for the sake of the mission, for the sake of duty. But now, standing here in the heart of this ancient temple, he couldn't deny it any longer. "Elara," his voice broke, the walls he had built around himself beginning to crumble. "I can't lose you. But if we give in to this, what will happen?" The keeper's voice rang out once more, final and commanding. "The choice is yours. Embrace the power within or leave it behind. But know this, Commander, once you step through this threshold, there is no turning back." Soren's mind raced. He could feel the weight of the relic's power pressing down on him, tempting him with promises of unimaginable strength. But the price, it wasn't just about his desires. It was about who he was, who he wanted to be. Could he truly give in to something so primal, so all-consuming, and still hold on to the man he had always been? Elara's hand tightened around his. "Soren, whatever happens, we face it together." Soren looked into her eyes, seeing the same conflict mirrored in her gaze. He could feel her resolve, her strength, and in that moment he knew what he had to do. He turned to the keeper, his voice firm and unwavering. "We will take the relics, but on our own terms." The keeper tilted its head as if considering his words. "Very well, Commander. The relics are yours, but remember, power comes with a price." The chamber trembled, the glyphs on the walls flaring with a brilliant light. The altar in the center of the room cracked open, revealing a small, intricately carved artifact glowing with an otherworldly energy. Soren stepped forward, his heart pounding as he reached for it. As his fingers closed around the relic, the energy surged through him, filling his veins with a warmth that was both exhilarating and terrifying. For a moment, he felt as if he could see everything: the future, the past, the threads of reality itself. But beneath it all, there was something else, something dark and dangerous. Soren gasped, pulling his hand away from the relic. The power was immense, but it wasn't what he had expected. It wasn't just about strength, it was about control, about bending the very fabric of the universe to his will. He turned to Elara, his voice steady but filled with determination. "We take this back to the coalition. We don't let anyone else get their hands on it." Elara nodded, her eyes filled with a mix of relief and understanding. "Agreed. We'll keep it safe." Together, they left the chamber, the weight of their decision heavy on their shoulders. The keeper watched them go, its silver eyes gleaming with an inscrutable expression. As they emerged from the temple into the harsh light of Zione's Alpha, Soren knew that their lives had been forever changed. The power of the relics was theirs, but so was the burden of what they had uncovered. And as they prepared to return to the celestial dawn, Soren couldn't shake the feeling that the true test had only just begun. For now, they had the power. But what they chose to do with it, that would determine their fate. The end.